Welcome to Trial by Wine. We take a closer look at crimes that highlight how fascinating humans can be. Schmidty, Swanee and Clarkey visit crimes and run them through their jury of three, debating both sides of the case to agree an appropriate, if totally fictitious, sentence. Please be advised, Trial by Wine may include explicit or disturbing content and will include drunken rambling. Listener discretion is advised.
All right. How are we all?
Very well.
Wonderful. Hi, Schmidty.
Yeah.
Hey, Clarky.
And
Hi,
Hi, Carla. Hi, Schmidty.
it's great to see you again. Of course it is. It's always great to see you guys. How was your week then?
Not bad. I've been having a bit of a back to school week with my kids, so that's always a great relief for any mother. I'm sure they'd agree, or father, I guess, to get the kids out of the house. So all
Getting
good
back into
here.
the swing of it.
What about you guys? Oh yeah, I'm loving that. Thank you very much.
Yep.
What about you, Clarky?
Oh, we had a lovely week last week down at the tennis. Yeah, and now this is our first week back at work. They're uneventful.
Yeah.
And Schmidty, what have you
Schmidty?
been up to?
Well, to be honest, I always feel a little depressed at this time of year. The official summer ended in February. I always think March is a kind of bonus summer month for Melbourne, and, that's gone. So I can feel a bit down because the weather's going to recede very quickly here. But Tony and I went to the houseboat this week and had a beautiful weekend. And it made me remember when Tony used to fear trips to the boat, alone with me and no TV. He thought of his trips to the houseboat as kind of a series of enormous nut punches. However, now we've got a super
poor
duper
Tony.
new Wi-Fi booster and can stream Netflix, and most importantly for poor Tony, watch his precious Arsenal scratch their way to the top of the Premier League where he thinks they belong. He really seems quite keen to go to the boat nowadays. And anyway, from looking back on the week, let's move to the here and now and the really important, what are we drinking today?
Best you start, Clarky.
Okay, then. So after our big week last week, we've decided we're going to jump on the wagon, Stuart and I, and I'm going with the Mount Franklin, lightly spritzed with a splash of lime.
Oh!
Delightful.
Can you believe it?
I
And
can't
you, Swanee?
believe it. Oh my God, now I feel the pressure. Well, I'm not jumping on any wagon because I've always got 1 foot on, 1 foot off, as you well know. And because it's the middle of the afternoon and I've still got to do school pickup, I'm dry, so I'm on the, what have I got today? Diet Coke, not very exciting. What about you, Schmidty? I hope you can hold up the part of the Trial by Wine bargain. What are you drinking?
Much as I find that troublesome, I'm going to give it my very hardest try. I'm drinking. This is a sparkling wine from Limoux, which is better than champagne, A, because it's cheaper than champagne, and B, because they actually invented the stuff 250 years before the Champagne region invented it. So remember that, Limoux.
Wow.
And
Limoux.
Where is that? Is it in France?
Yeah, Limoux. I say Limoux as if I know my French pronunciation, but
Yeah.
I may well not do.
I think they'd be right.
But it's great stuff. There are a few wines that come from that region, and nearly all of them are somewhere between great and very palatable. So that's what I'm drinking. And in fact, Limoux is my second favourite drink of all time. It really is.
Wow. And what would your first one
What's
be?
your first favourite, Schmidty?
Oh, that's my homemade damson gin.
Ah, of course it is, darling. Of course it is.
Can't get enough
Good
of that.
choice.
Anywho.
And we were spoiled a couple of weeks back to have a taste of that. Thank you very much.
You ready to introduce ourselves?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's.
Yep.
I'm Schmidty.
I'm Swanee.
And I'm Clarky. And together we are...
Trial by
by
Wine. Okay, everybody. Would you like to hear my story of crime through the lens of wine? It's called...
Yes, please.
Absolutely. What have you got for us, Dal? You right?
Oh, sorry about that. I swear to God, I've had this frog in my throat the whole time we were doing the intro there, and it's almost like I sounded like someone else. It's bizarre. Because, I've had a few chest infections, but they've never make me sound like I'm a Cockney before. So that was interesting. All right.
Maybe it's one of those things where, people hear in different, they've had like brain injury.
Well, you do sound better. Let me try.
Oh, that's much better. Wow, I really noticed how your voice changed, Schmidty, when you did it, so I thought I'd give it a crack. And you're not going to believe it. Not only do I sound better, our shitty little sparkling mineral waters have turned into fruit tangles from Bilson, so we're now having vodka. Woohoo!
Woo! We're all back as we should
All
be.
is restored. All is
Yes.
restored.
Oh, it's like we slipped into peasant
I
world.
thought I must have had COVID for a minute there.
Peasant world.
Okay, with this being a special April Fool's edition of our show, I thought I'd liven things up a bit today with a story about fooling people. No murder or violence, sorry, or for some a nice change.
What?
Yeah.
Is there a crime at least?
Oh, there's definitely crime. There's
welcome
definitely
that.
crime. But this is what I would like to think of as a bit of a palate cleanser. It's the sherbet between murders and
And a
rapes.
moose-boosh.
All right, so my sources are going to upset
Why?
you.
Did you not use Lad Bible?
Oh,
No,
my God.
You're
no
right. You
Lad
have
Bible,
upset me
not a
already.
single Lad Bible source.
Got to stop.
This
This has got
outrage.
to stop.
I know.
How can you move away from serious stories and still hang on to reputable sources? This is just gross negligence on your behalf.
This is still a serious story. In fact, one of my sources is Gilbert King, who was writing for, get this, the Smithsonian.com magazine, and is a one-time Pulitzer Prize winner. So I don't think I could get more reputable sources
But
than
what,
that,
Lad
to be
Bible
honest.
won't even publish his work? That's your problem.
That's the problem.
Oh, all right.
God, don't bring your reputable sources as a justification for what you've done. That's exactly what we're holding you accountable for.
Oh, well, all right. Okay. Well, you might feel better that I actually, when I first came across this case, I found it on a website called mentalfloss.com, which is not quite Lad Bible, but, sounds a little bit more lowbrow than the Smithsonian.
Just a little bit. Just a little
Sorry
bit.
about that,
Yeah,
mentalfloss.com.
I don't know that they've ever been used in the same sentence before. Mentalfloss.com and the Smithsonian.
I'd like to congratulate the people at mentalfloss.com for their credible work that may not be equivalent to the Smithsonian, but is obviously better for us. Well, Swanee
Absolutely.
and I anyway.
Apart from King, there are a few historians and biographers who have written extensively on the case, including Christopher Sanford and Jeff Maish, whose accounts have also helped in filling some of the details. So basically, I found a lot of high-level stuff around this gentleman, and then I found some really good deep...
And sorry, so before you continue, I've already got a question. You said this is a story about foolery. Is it foolery?
Fooling
or
people.
Foolery?
No, it's not tomfoolery. It's about fooling people.
Okay, good.
All right. So, as I was saying, apart from King, I've got a few other historians and biographers who've written extensively on the case, including Christopher Sanford and Jeff Maish, whose accounts have also helped in filling a lot of details because they wrote, I would say, quite flowery accounts of stuff. Kind of fictionalized some of it, but it was still interesting. So,
Flowery as in the stuff you use to make bread or the stuff you put in a vase? I don't really understand the use of flowery.
Creative license.
In the sense of literary kind of commentary, it's where they use lots and lots and lots of words to say what you could say in three. And that's why I don't write for a living, because I'm not great at extensive descriptive
Is that like
words.
Scott Morrisonery?
Yeah, you could call it that. Or Boris Johnsonery. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. So many words and I still don't know what you're saying.
Yeah, it still makes no sense.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So this is exciting because this story takes us back in time, Timey-Winey machine, or Timey-Winey machine, as Paul likes to call it. And we're going back to the Roaring 20s, a time of prohibition, racketeering, jazz, gin, and gangsters.
I'm surprised you're not in fancy dress, Schmidty.
I know.
You
I
could
just
have
had a
done
thought
that.
thinking,
Yeah.
why did I not dress appropriately?
And
But
what are those
because we're not
haircuts
actually
called?
videoing ourselves,
Oh, no, it's not a haircut.
the flapper
That's
with
true.
the Marcel wave, with
That's
the
the song
curl.
from Keep Young and Beautiful.
That's
Yeah,
right.
remember,
Yes.
wear a Marcel wave in your hair. Anyway,
That's the one.
that's
So
what
there's
I
your
was
musical
thinking of.
interlude for the show.
Yep. Well, I don't know. It might be a few others. So that is
Well, the first one at least.
that's where we are. Yeah. So we are in the 1920s. So Victor Lustig is the name that this person is most famously known by. However, some say his real name was Robert V. Miller, and others say that was also one of his aliases. So who can say? But we do seem to be pretty sure he was born in Hostin, Bohemia in 1890.
Is that Czech? Yeah.
That's now the Czech. Yeah, that's now the Czech Republic. But at the time, it was part of the
Been there with you once, my love, haven't I?
Oh, we have indeed. We have indeed. Not to
No.
Hostin itself, but we've definitely been to
Prague.
lovely Prague, a beautiful city. Okay, yeah. So we
They
had
were the
some good
days.
times.
They were the days when I could leave my state. 2 years and counting. Not me. Not counting at all. 2 years I've been. 2 years I've been in this room. Oh my God.
And not bitter about it.
Not at
either.
all.
2 years I've been in this kitchen,
I
lady.
don't know if I'm bitter so much as I'm certainly mentally challenged by it. I'm sure of that. So I apologise for my mental health. But anyway, I digress. Sorry, darling. Yeah.
You're allowed. It's fine. So Hostin had a population of about 4,500 at the turn of the 20th century, and it's not far different now, to be honest. So it hasn't changed a great deal. But it was a fairly small place, but it wasn't a village in peasant world. So he told people he'd been born to a well-off family, although some historians tried to find records of him and can't find him in any records that still exist from the time. And as we will soon find out, he was a bit of a truth stretcher. So it's not easy to say for sure who the hell he was, what his early life was like. We only really get a handle on him in his late teens. But I'm going to call him Lustig
Truth stretcher.
for the
You started this off it all too professionally. Like, couldn't you go bullshitter or
A truth stretcher.
truth stretcher? Jesus.
A con man?
I think what you'll discover is he's
Yeah.
so professional that you can't call him a bullshitter. So he was an extremely
I think you're
intelligent.
using flowery words to describe him.
I'm a bit in love with him, to be honest.
Oh.
I've got to say, I've got a little bit of a crush.
Oh,
on
are
this guy.
you?
Yeah,
right.
He's such a
Good to
character,
know.
and he's 5'7", so he's already off my list of possible people I would sleep with because he's shorter than me. That's right, and we all know I'm heightist. Sorry about that. But apart from being short, and
What if he stood on a chair?
you can't stand on a chair all the time, can you?
Cuban
and
heel?
that's the problem.
Platforms, stilts.
Look, I don't want to get into it. I've got 8 pages of notes, and me going into my heightist, proclivities is not what we're here for today.
I thought you were silently imagining whether or I thought that pause was about silently
Getting up so
imagining
high.
whether or not it could actually work. I was going to say good for you for considering it, but
I have considered it in the past. JB, if you're out there, I considered it, but, I'm heightist. It's my discrimination against you. Sorry about that. Anyway, moving right along.
Billsy? What did
That
Billsy have to do with it?
No, different person.
Different JB.
Yeah, different JB. He knows who he is. But he's so gorgeous and he's so debonair and so wonderful. If only he'd been 6 inches
Could have been a
taller.
bit of a reveal there for Billsy.
Yeah, no, it wasn't Billsy. Sorry. Okay.
I wonder how many JBs are going. She's talking about me.
Oh, no. The debonair, incredible. Oh, anyway, he knows who he is. Where was I? That was very distracting. All right. So he was this guy, Lustig, not JB, although JB is also a very intelligent person. Lustig was an extremely intelligent youth, speaking at least 5 languages fluently and showing great promise as a young man. However, he was also a very naughty boy. He studied in Paris at the Sorbonne.
He's not the Messiah.
He took up gambling when he was 19, and he was very good at it, by the way. He liked the ladies, and this got him into trouble at times and was why he had a 2-inch scar on the left of his face, which was a gift from a jealous boyfriend of one of his lady friends. So that's when he was like a late teenager. He wasn't keen on university. His father had insisted that he goes to university, and he was like, I don't really want to do it. And harking back to some of our previous conversations about pedagogy, he preferred experiential learning. I know, I can't help it.
Did you just really just drop the word I can't even say it.
Pedagogy.
Oh my God! Look at you, who works in education.
Pedagogy?
That's just showing off.
That was my point.
Is pedagogy related to Tamagotchi?
Is it the science of teaching?
Not at all.
Is that what it is?
Pretty much. Yeah. Yes. No, you're right. It's the science of teaching. You're right. Or that might.
It's a small little thing that you keep alive.
I'm aware of somebody who's a director of it, and I thought his job was to teach teachers how to teach. Sorry, I know that sounds absolutely ridiculous, but
no, that's right though. It's all about.
Is that right?
Yeah. Because there's a whole art form, or there's a whole science, I guess, to instructional design. So how you design, learning materials and classrooms and all the rest of it. Sorry, this is totally off piste, but. That's I couldn't help myself but throw in the whole pedagogy thing. I love that
shit that fills the head of you two. My God,
you threw that little bomb in there.
I love that you bit on it.
I wouldn't have known what it was a year ago. I just happened to know now. That's all. So I had to sort of.
No, you are quite right. You're quite right. Don't worry. I started for I reckon the first 4 years of working where I work now. I didn't know what pedagogy meant, but I do now.
I still can't say it. Anyway, let's move on.
I won't know what it is tomorrow.
No, that's all right. You don't need to. If in doubt, give us a call. I'll tell you. All right. So anyway, he preferred to experience life. So he'd wander around and commit minor crimes. Mostly these were card tricks, street hustles, playing pool, that sort of stuff. But he really discovered that he had an incredible gift for the con. And of course, using his many languages and his brilliant brain, wasn't much for him to convince people to part with their cash. And in January 1908, at the tender age of 18, he was arrested by the police in Paris following one of his snoozer cons. So a snoozer con is basically where you book yourself into a hotel.
Snoozer con?
Yeah, a snoozer con is where you book yourself into a hotel, you pretend you have a lavish lifestyle or you're a particular kind of individual and you con people around you, the other guests basically.
Did you make that term up or did it exist already?
No. I read that. I find them on Smithsonian.com.
Is it like is it like a bed and breakfast, but a snooze and con?
No. He booked himself into really like top-notch hotels.
An S&C, as we like to call it.
This is sort of like the beginning of Dirty Rotten Scoundrels,
That's a
isn't it?
Snoozer.
Well, I think actually some of the inspiration for that, Catch Me If You Can, this guy inspired a lot of those storylines. Yeah, he's
okay.
The King of the Con, I think it was his moniker. King of the Con.
Right.
So he goes into the Nemzetti Hotel and he checks himself in there, and it was in France, Paris, and he wears a schnazzy suit and he waxes his moustache. And he poses as a well-bred young insurance company guy, allegedly on a continental tour organised by his associates in London. He very kindly offered to act as a go-between for the wealthy ladies, taking their jewellery and having them professionally appraised. He charged a token fee, because, you don't work for nothing, and gave them a little receipt saying the items would be returned in the morning. After introducing himself to an unsuspecting patron as, I love this, Earl Mountjoy, he took a Cartier Tutti Frutti necklace and matching earrings and told the owner that he hoped she might find time later in the spring to join him on his yacht as he cruised the French Riviera, and hinting at a possible marriage. Sadly, for the young lady, she lost her jewels and her heart.
Goodness.
Or at least her dignity. On that fateful day. So just to give you a bit of context, so you can appreciate the value of a Cartier Tutti Frutti necklace and earrings, a 1930s Tutti Frutti bracelet sold at Sotheby's in 2020 for $1.3 million. And a 1928 bracelet of the same design was sold in 2014 for $2.1 million. And even at the time, they would have been extremely expensive items. And if you want to know, Carla, because I'm sure you do, they're right up my alley.
Amazing.
They were just a riot of
And
cascading,
quite colourful.
precious, terribly colourful, cascading jewels, the kind of thing
That's
I
what
would
I was thinking of.
definitely
As
wear.
well, I was thinking, tutti frutti. That was what I was thinking. Must be coloured gemstones. Yeah,
Mm.
lovely.
I think they were originally...
Schmidty, take them out of your alley and give them back to that poor lady who owns them.
Oh, seriously, if I had, jewelry worth a combined $4 million, you wouldn't be seeing me here on this podcast. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, with some, but
You'd be sitting there in those jewels doing the podcast.
And they certainly wouldn't be up your alley.
I'm not putting anything up my alley. This isn't Hotel
Exactly.
Bangkok or whatever it was called.
You
Was that
said
what it
they
was
were
called,
right
Hotel
up your
Bangkok?
alley. Don't call me out on
I
that.
meant I would. They're the kind
Bangkok Hilton.
Bangkok
We
Hilton.
know what
Thank
you
you.
meant, but you said it.
Oh, you people are so rude. Anyway,
You can't take the words back. They're out
don't
there.
need to. Don't need to. The Tutti Frutti necklace is right up my alley, and by that I don't mean my vagina. Anyway. With some money behind him and having to get away from the authorities, he decided to quit Paris for a bit and sail the seas on cruise liners. Now, I've been on a few cruises with Tony,
Ooh.
but I have a feeling that our experience on the P&O or celebrity ships weren't quite what Victor and his fellow passengers were experiencing.
It was a different time, wasn't it? It was a different class of travel.
It's a different time.
Plenty
It was a
of
point. It was a travel.
We're not
it was a
thinking
form
Disney
of transport.
cruises.
It wasn't
Yeah.
a cruise. That's right. You're not going
It was
out
quite a
doing
grand.
Wasn't Titanic?
Well, yes, it was a bit more like Titanic, Paul.
You know,
it was.
He wasn't on the
holiday.
water side. He wasn't on the water slides.
Thank you. That's right. Or down at the disco.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Correct.
So,
yeah. No, they got dressed and you sat formally for dinner, and it was a more formal way of travel. Yeah.
and it was a really, really good place to find a mark.
A mark.
Yeah. A mark, a victim, someone to take the money off. So I think
Right. God, you use words that I just
I
don't
know.
get.
Introductions. So I think the important point, though, is these cost about, $2,000 US in today's money. So he was investing money to be on these boats to meet people who he could then rob, because his return on investment was going to be pretty good.
It's massive. Yeah.
He was able to blend. Yeah, he was able to blend into society on the cruises, posing as a wealthy traveller and stinging unsuspecting, and this is again for you, Paul, marks along the way. And by the way, I think, I could be wrong, but I think Lustig, actually coined the expression calling them a mark.
Other people whose names aren't Mark.
Oh, right.
What about the Johns? Oh, no, sorry, that's a
Are
different
you saying
kind of
that's
person.
an expression that most people should know?
Mark, yeah, everyone knows what a mark is.
Yeah.
Should most people know that expression, calling them a mark?
Well, yeah. Carla, did you
You
know
know
what a
what
mark
mark
was
is?
before I said it?
Well, we're 50-50 on this podcast.
No, we're not. We're 66-33.
Yeah, but you two are a little bit more highbrow than us, I think.
Yes.
How? Stuart doesn't know what one is either.
Carla
so
and I.
I'm going that's 50-50.
Yeah, but you represent 1/3. You two represent 1/3 of the podcast.
No, we're not half people. You heightist, elitist.
Whilst travelling Europe, here are a couple of his crimes. In February,
Mark.
no, crimes against marks. Okay. In February 1909 in Vienna, posed as a hotel carpenter and installed a fake wall in a room that allowed him access to a guest's valuables from the other side.
That's quite an effort.
What? Hang on, can we explore that a little bit more? He posed as a hotel carpenter and installed a wall,
A false wall.
So that he could access
so that
patrons'
he could
valuables.
get
Yeah.
to their jewels.
Mm-hmm. The guy has got balls, and I will...
I still don't get it. But was it like, did the wall have a false door or something in it?
I don't know the details of this particular crime,
Have to have
but
something
imagine
false
this.
into the room.
Imagine you've got a storage room, right? And like a cloakroom, and your guests say, can I put my expensive stuff in here to be safe? And you say, no problem. And then someone comes along and installs a fake wall in it. No one happens to notice that the room has shrunk, but that allows him to have access so that he can take their valuables.
Where do you even get the material for that on a cruise
He's
ship?
not on the cruise ship. He's now in landlocked Vienna, correct?
This is Vienna.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. He's in
Sorry.
Vienna at this
So you
point.
missed that.
He travels around.
That's why I'm so amazed. I got so hung up on Mark, I completely missed that we weren't on a cruise anymore.
You were like,
Yeah,
how
no,
did he get to Bunnings before he got on the cruise ship? He's walked in with a massive plank of wood, got some plywood, and so he's got his materials. Right, ready to go.
Where do you even find
Don't
that on
mind
a
me.
cruise
Nothing.
ship? This bloke is
Nothing here to see, just a
incredible.
fake wall.
Matching
Yep, just a
wallpaper.
fake wall. I'm walking up the gangplank with.
Oh,
Gangway, sorry.
God, I've got a shit attention
No, that was a
span.
little bit. Even I went, oh, hang on, now we're back in Vienna. Or we're back on land. But yes,
Sorry,
That's
yeah.
right, isn't it,
Yeah,
Shitty?
I should have said.
Right.
I did. I actually said whilst travelling Europe, here are a couple
Yeah,
of his
you
crimes.
did,
But
yeah.
anyway, so he gets off
Paul
the
thought it was
ship
still on
at
the
some
boat.
point, and then he
Yeah.
commits some crimes. He gets back on a
100%
ship,
I did,
commits
yes.
more crimes, gets off a boat. So the next one is April 1911 in Budapest. He convinced a wealthy woman to give him money by
On
claiming
or
it
off
was
a boat?
off the boat. Budapest, off the boat. Budapest is a city. Convinced a wealthy woman to give him money by...
There's no boats in Budapest.
There are boats, but not cruise
There
ships or
are,
anything.
right down the Danube.
I know.
Yeah.
hmm Anyway, by claiming it was going to fund an orphanage. Now we're in London. Are we going to talk about whether he's on a boat in the Thames or we're going to accept that he's on dry land? Just checking. Before I
I'm
tell
just
you
going
this
to go
one.
with the fact that we're not going to be on boats anymore until you say it, because otherwise you're going to lose your shit. And whilst I'll think that's funny, it might not be for you. So let's just pretend that it's all on land now.
It's on land. 1914 in London, he sold London Bridge for £2,400 by posing as a local authority worker seeking to raise funds.
I think I've heard of that before. I think
I'm sure
that
you
rings
have.
a bell.
And
I don't
it's
know
not one of
where I
his
would have
most
heard it.
famous, but yes.
Who bought
It
it?
rings a bell, yeah.
Oh, I haven't got the details. I think Americans. Didn't he sell? I thought he sold it to Americans, but
Well,
I'm not sure.
There's some,
would you-
yeah. That rings a bell, Schmidty. I don't know why, but yeah, I feel like I've heard that.
And I think even, I could be wrong,
Wow.
but I think
Yeah.
he told them that they were buying. He told them it was London Bridge, but you know London Bridge is actually quite plain, and it's the other. What's the
The
fancy
more
bridge?
ornate
Yes,
Tower
Tower
Bridge.
Tower
Yes,
Bridge
that's
is the
right.
fancy one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Tower
yeah. So they
Bridge.
thought they were buying
Yeah.
Tower Bridge, and they were actually bought, which they didn't really. They got swindled into thinking they bought London Bridge, which is the ordinary bridge. Anyway,
And was it before or after London Bridge fell down?
I don't know. I'm not sure. This was in 1914, so I'm very happy for you or Stuart to do the research
I
on
would
when
assume
London
after
Bridge fell down.
I would assume after.
No, I'm going to go with he sold them the London Bridge that had fallen down, but
Quite
told them
possibly.
it was Tower Bridge.
Quite possibly, yeah.
Who cares about fact?
No, exactly. He certainly didn't, because he didn't own any of the things that he was selling to people. In 19...
Well, neither did they, by the sounds of it.
Not in the end, no. In early 1916 in London, he posed as... I personally like this one. Posed as a musical producer named Andre Dupre and convinced a Harley Street specialist, Cyril McClintock, to invest £500 in a West End show that never existed. That's my kind of guy. You know, just the theatre bit. And I think £500 at the time...
Is that when he had you? He had you.
Oh no, he's just an impressive individual. You'll come to appreciate.
He didn't
it.
have you at hello, but he had you at some point in his
Oh,
story.
I don't know. She was pretty impressed about the
was
carpentry
there.
on the boat.
Yeah, well, I was more impressed about
he
that.
had you then, didn't he? That's when you were like, oh, hello. This guy, that is so
100%. Yeah. But he also
I
did
do like
you
someone
say?
who's a bit handy. You're right.
the dirty
Yeah,
truth stretcher.
he's a truth stretcher for sure. Yeah.
True.
He then settled in the USA, and we've got to assume that he travelled there by boat. But let's assume he gets off the boat for absolute point
Thank
of
you.
clarity. So he's now on land.
Did
Okay.
he commit any crimes on the boat?
Possibly, but I haven't got them recorded here. So here we are over in the USA.
Definitely installed a false wall.
Probably, and on land. So one of his schemes in 1916 involved setting up his own church on the Manhattan waterfront and promising the congregation that the service would swell all hearts and souls with joy.
That shit's been going on for millennia.
Using a speech that had been given in the Polish city of Breslau and making a few amendments of his own, he was able to impress the congregation so much they gave him $90. The modern equivalent is $2,500. As you might
okay.
imagine, the poor never saw a cent of it.
Wow.
It went straight into his own pocket.
What happened to the church?
Oh, he just ran away. He'd take the money, he'd disappear. He had over
Oh, he
47.
didn't actually build a church.
No.
He
He
just-
did
Not for $90, no.
No. 1916.
I was thinking that's bad return on investment.
In 1916, there were a lot of this sort of traveling. Remember the other day I was talking about the crucifixion of Marguerite Peter, and I was talking about the
You were?
not casually. It was the story at the time.
Oh, right.
Was I drunk then?
Probably.
Oh, I was
Maybe.
talking about the crucifixion
Maybe
of
you've
Margaret.
forgotten.
I do. Yes, no, I was drunk, and I do
Yes.
recall now.
Yeah,
She was in the upstairs place that they boarded up.
She was in
and-
Switzerland,
Mhm.
right?
Gotcha. I recall.
Oh, right,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
with you. Right, I remember you casually mentioning her.
That's right, just casually. I made a reference to a really good series, which is a retelling of Perry Mason. It's sort of the same period in America's timeline, and there are a lot of kind of traveling around people who are praising God and having moments. And so churches weren't specifically, buildings; they were congregations of people
Buildings.
who are all
Okay,
looking
right.
for. Because remember, this is towards the end of World War One, leading into the Spanish flu plague. So it's not a great time. So people were like,
so they wanted the Lord to fix their gimpy
they wanted.
leg. Or...
That's right. Yeah, they were looking for something external to themselves to make them feel better.
They were wanting to get out of WA, I get it.
Yeah. And he saw that
I'm just
as a
looking for
ripe
travelling church at the moment to
opportunity.
get me through.
Well, all I'm going to tell you, you need to be careful because Swanee, someone might come along and rip you off $90 if you're not careful.
Oh,
So-
I'm right for it.
Because you're open to it.
Oh,
All right.
Yes.
So while in America, he set up a fake off.
you're right
track
for it,
bet.
as in you're happy to give them the $90.
If it means she gets out of WA, she'll give him $90.
I'm in a vulnerable state. Yeah.
No, you're not.
Sorry,
You're in a
I-
perfectly good state. We're in a vulnerable state.
Yeah, Carla, just wait a while. You'll see winter again one day.
Winter is
Yeah,
coming.
winter.
Don't worry.
Yes.
Yeah. While in America, he set up a fake off-track betting shop. Gamblers are easy marks for conmen because they're already prepared to spend money on the chance of making more. This time he called himself Count von Kessler, a displaced European aristocrat, which actually wouldn't have been that odd given it was after World War One, and would convince a wealthy individual to visit the premises to place a bet. He was so committed to his craft that he would fill the room with actors playing employees and furnish it as if it was an actual betting shop. And it's a theme in many of his cons that he was prepared to spend that decent outlay, like I was saying before, about even just booking the travel, which actually cost him quite a lot of money because he knew that he was going to get a good return on investment from whoever he was stealing from. And, in this day and age, I might call that entrepreneurial, if it weren't a little bit criminal, quite criminal anyway. And he even had people in the next room giving a live broadcast.
And if you had a speech impediment, you might call it entrepreneurial.
I know you love saying that.
Because, it's good to be an entrepreneur.
It is good to be an entrepreneur. I've never quite managed it.
It's hard to say
Okay,
entrepreneurial. That's a... Ugh.
He even had being an I can't say it now. You've said that so many times at me.
Wanker.
Being a
Wanker.
wanker. That's right. He even had someone in the next room giving live broadcasts to make it sound like real races were being called over the wireless. So, he went to a really significant
He's committed.
effort to set up his cons. No, really committed. This is why I have a little bit of a crush on him. I just think he's a bit special.
So it's not the bit about the play the Broadway play or the West End play that he raised money for. It's this bit now.
No, that was it's his dedication to his cause. It's his
Okay.
determination. It's his planning. It's his attention to detail. He's got excellent execution. He's very good at what he does. And he really takes his job seriously. I respect a man who takes his job seriously.
I think there's people who are this sort of caliber of con man or woman or whatever. When it is quite remarkable the attention to detail required to be able to pull something off. So if you do watch Catch Me If You Can, but this has just reminded me, have you ever seen the movie with Ben Affleck called Argo?
Yes.
No.
Now, I had only, maybe in the last 6 months, I saw a documentary which was about the film. So it was the real scenario in Tehran when I think they were American, consulate or members they had to hide in the Canadian embassy, I think. And to get them out, Ben Affleck's character came in and it sort of staged his thing. And they used sort of the cover of a movie production company. And again, it was all the detail they had to go into to pretend that all the other actors and other people around him set him up to be able to, sort of complete the con, as it were. And it's a similar thing, you can't do it independently. If you're staging it, that's where the genius sort of comes into it. It's not just you on your own.
It does, but I think it also increases the risk because, you're
right.
You're booking all these people to play roles or do various things.
Yeah.
And that for me is what's so interesting about it. It's not like a card trick that you do on your own in Conscarpa.
No.
You're leaving a trail, and yet this man managed to avoid, I think it was something like 40 different times he was arrested, and he either escaped prison or just talked his way out of them. It was really very, very extraordinary in that respect. In February 1918, he swindled gambler and boxing promoter George Tex Rickard out of $500, which was thousands in today's money, in a poker game after bribing the dealer and rehearsing his poker face. Ma, poker face, ma, poker face.
Ma.
Gaga.
She's got a little whiffy.
Oh. He did this in his hotel room for hours and hours in advance. So he
What did he do in his hotel room for hours and hours?
He practiced his poker face, his poker face.
Ma.
Yeah.
Everything wasn't all business, though, for this guy. On a personal note, in 1919, he married a nice young lady named Roberta Norrit. And like all good husbands of the time, was aware he needed to support his wife and bring home the bacon. However, even though he had a wife and would soon have a daughter to support, he still had an eye for the ladies and is alleged to have had several affairs and be linked to loads of famous and infamous women of the time. So on that front, I'm not in love with him. I think dirty rat. But on the whole conning stuff, I think he's quite impressive. So whilst business was good, in the early 20s, he came up with a scheme that, when you think about it, really stretched the imagination. He devised a literal money-making machine, which he claimed would print money. So he'd book into a swanky hotel, outlay good money to run his scam, and would identify for you, Clarky, mark. He'd then have dinner with them.
A Deutschmark?
Ply them with booze. Yeah, they could be German, possibly. Yes. Ply them with booze. Spend up on the food, lavish meal. And when they were nice and soft and pliable in terms of suggestion, he would invite them up to a private room or into a private room to have a look at his amazing machine, and no, that is not a euphemism. He'd take $100 bill from his wallet, insert it into a slot, again, not a euphemism, in the machine, turn a lever, and the bill would be pulled through into the box. At the other end, he'd put a sheet of bill-sized white linen paper, like quite good quality paper, and then he'd do some jiggery pokery, turn some dials and move stuff, and then say, it takes 6 hours for this to work, so let's go back to the bar. And of course, it was just theatrics to heighten the anticipation for the mark. So the guy's like, 6 hours, we've got to wait. And then they'd go off and they'd drink more and they'd have a great time, and they'd return 6 hours later and to see how it was going. And he'd move the dials again, he'd crank the lever, and lo and behold, $200 bills would come out. And they were real.
6 hours work.
I know, it doesn't feel like a lot, but $100 at the time was a significant amount of money. Yeah. Like, we don't have $1,000 bills, but $100 bought you a lot in 19 whatever. Yeah. Anyway, and they were real bills. Of course, he planted them at the start and all the rest of it. Yeah. So these idiots who saw this thought, oh, wow, this is amazing. I want to get me some of this. They would pay up to, get this. This is the bit that kills me. So please remember this when we're doing sentencing. $30,000, which is the equivalent of $800,000 for one of these machines. They weren't short for money.
They would buy the machines. Oh, God. I thought you were going to say they'd give him $1,000 and say double it for me.
No, they'd buy the machine thinking this is grouse. I can print my own money. If you can afford to spend $800,000 on a money printer at the time, like they were megged. They didn't need to be doing this.
That's impressive.
Again, just it is, yeah. So that's fine, no worries. He would go and knock one of these machines because they were just a box with some dials and a lever. Like they were just bullshit.
Just a printer, wasn't it? Down.
Pretty much, yeah.
It
wasn't even a printer. It didn't even print. It was just a box with 2 slots, some dials and a lever that just moved one thing to one place to another. So he would make one of those and then he'd give it to the person. And the fact that he built in that whole 6-hour period was absolute genius because he'd give them the box and they'd be like, rush off, and they'd start it. And they had to wait 6 hours, which gave him tons of time to
get
piss
away.
off.
Yep.
Ah, very clever.
He's clever. Yeah. I tell you, this is where the crush comes in, not the adultery. No. But on the smartness, very good. So, and of course, he never got reported for this because
people are so greedy
and so embarrassed
Feelings
that
like
they got
such
conned
idiots.
to this level.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, and illegal because you're obviously not allowed to.
Yeah, you're not allowed to counterfeit money.
Yeah. So that was perfect in that respect.
Mm-hmm.
He found someone who was, sleazy enough to want to be able to fall for it and think, I've got a lot of money, but hell, I want even more. So you get the perfect
absolutely right.
mark.
And to be honest,
on that one.
in a lot of ways, his greatest skill was identifying the mark.
Yeah,
finding the right person.
Yeah,
to hit with these,
who's got enough but greedy enough to,
he just clearly could read people so well. So here are some more of his capers and his capers and his catalogue
crazy
of cons.
antics.
Capers, crazy catalogue of cons, as I like to call it. And these are short versions, and we're all on land still.
Got it. Yep.
In August 1922, in Cape May, New Jersey, using the alias Count Cockham.
Oh, come on. Jeez.
It's probably not pronounced
How
like
could
that.
you take
That's
him
how I'm
seriously?
pronouncing it.
Wouldn't you be like the Earl of Cockham? He just looks like a Count of Cockham.
He set up a stand and pretended to communicate with the dead, which, by the way, is a pretty standard con. In fact, Carla, how much of the stuff we were told when we went to similar Count Lustigs back in the day came true? I was just thinking about that the other day, how almost nothing any psychic has ever told me has actually come to pass.
No, seriously?
I was thinking about it. Shut up. I was thinking about it in the context of this story, and I was like, oh, that's quite funny, actually.
I need to go back and have a look at my notes, but they're so generic because
That's
I do
the
have
point.
I've got the little cassette tape from when we went to that place in Bath. But I do think that was probably the last time I went to a psycho.
Maybe one episode we should just play that tape and take the piss out of all the things they're saying. That would be funny.
Actually, I'm going to put a little note down to see if I can find a way of listening to that because it would be very interesting.
I reckon if you could find a cassette player, that would do it.
Or a Walkman.
Yeah, that'll be hard. Oh, actually, I do know where a cassette player is because one of my children has one, an old one. I'm going to put that down.
I think the point is, and I'm not saying everyone who says that they're a psychic and communes with the dead and all the rest of it are consciously lying and conning people.
I am.
But I would say that people who go to them are open to suggestion and looking for information or answers or a response or whatever, which makes you much more likely to be a mark, is all I'm saying.
Right.
Okay. So then in 1922 in Springfield.
Oh, no.
Of course.
Here we find ourselves again.
Of course.
Which one?
All
Missouri.
roads lead to Springfield.
Springfield, Missouri, not Illinois.
Missouri.
Not Oregon.
Not Oregon.
Not Oregon.
No, not Oregon or Illinois.
I don't think we've been to Springfield, Missouri. I think there's a new one for
I
us.
think so
There you go,
too.
Near Springfield. He stole $10,000, which at the time was, in today's money, it was over $1 million, from a bank after posing as a wealthy businessman looking for a site for his next chemical plant. In June 1924, in Salina, Kansas, he pulled a similar scam, this time posing as Baron von Lustig, seeking a property. He ended up taking 1,000 banks from a community bank, which was about 150. Sorry, did I say 1,000 banks?
Yep.
1,000 bucks. You know how I started on Limu, allegedly? Well, actually, I'm drinking Shiraz, and it's beautiful, and it's going down a treat.
Nice.
However,
Hence the 1,000 banks.
he ended up taking 1,000 bucks from the community bank, which in today's money is about 150,000 bucks. But it's a community bank, so
I'm not okay with it being a community bank.
Yeah.
Naughty man.
Yeah.
Why would it be different to any other bank?
Well, because it's owned by the
it's the
community, so
people's
he's
money.
yeah. You know, if it was like the ANZ Bank,
Yeah,
or,
but still, if it's my money and if it was my money and it was in a community bank, or my money and it was in a bank, it's still my money.
yeah, but
I'm
like
still getting ripped off.
the-
So don't feel too bad for
the
them.
big four in Australia
equally
rob
bad.
people all the time, and so you know, if someone robs someone back, so be it. That's less of
I
a
take
crime
your
than
point.
if it's a community bank, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Good chat.
Good chat.
Anyway, he's still.
It's like Robin Hood. If you rob from the rich and give to the poor, that's okay. But if you rob from the poor who all happen to go to the same bank and therefore they don't get it back, that's not okay.
Well, it's an interesting point you make because eventually he basically says the same thing, which I never stole from anyone who couldn't afford it, who wasn't wealthy and wasn't greedy.
Well, I'm calling out crap
he makes
now
the.
with the community bank.
All right.
He's a truth
Well,
stretcher. Dirty
put that
truth
in the-
stretcher.
Can I just
He's a
ask
truth
you? He's a
stretcher.
absolute truth stretcher. Can the two of you please get your notebooks out and make
Yes.
notes about things that you want to refer to in the sentencing later? And
Okay.
that could be one of them. He's an ideas man. He's an ideas man, isn't
Dirty
he?
truth stretcher.
And in 1925, he took his family.
I don't think I just looked up true stretcher. It's not a thing. You've made that
I
up.
called that out. I also called
Truth
out
stretcher.
Probably.
I'm a
pedagogy,
truth
which
stretcher.
is actually a real word.
Mark, that's
Pedagogy is
definitely
a real word.
pedagogy,
Yeah.
Truth stretcher. Yeah,
Truth stretcher.
it's a thing now. I made it up. It's a thing.
Yes, I know. I know.
If
Yes.
enough people say
It's
it,
yours.
Carla
It's
just-
no,
yours.
if enough
You
people
can
say
own
it,
that.
it becomes a thing. It goes in the dictionary. It's like all these other stupid words.
I'm
like,
not sure it's going to make it to next year's list, but I take your
It's
point.
not as
yes.
good as magic pussy.
It's like agreeance.
No, and I think things like what social distancing and things like that went into the dictionary this year. I don't know that truth stretcher is going to become the word for 2022.
Ye of little faith. I'm going to
We
do
will see.
a
We
campaign. Truth stretcher. The
Truth
new
stretcher.
thing for
will see.
liar.
The Pantone colour for 2022.
Can-
Liar
Word
slash
of the,
bullshitter. Truth
Can-
stretcher.
Yeah.
Can we get
Truth stretcher.
Are we
Like a soothsayer.
in agreement with that?
That's what it sounds like. Every
It does.
time you say it, it's like
Soothsayer.
and you keep saying truth stretcher like it's some ye olde word. It's like you have made that up. You have made truth stretcher, soothsayer up. That's what, every time you say it, it sounds like you. It's like she's thinking of something else. Like it is soothsayer.
Oh, no, you're absolutely right. I probably have made that, but I still like it.
I
I'm
love
going
it.
with
Yeah.
I like it. I like it.
I'm
I
going
like
with
it.
it.
Excellent
I'm going with
call
it.
out
Truth
though.
stretcher.
All right. We've gone through, like, the money-making machine was a pretty major con of his.
Yeah.
But he had plenty of good ideas. And in 1925, he took his family back to Paris. So he had a daughter and a wife by this time. And he instigated his most famous con. And if you were a con man in Paris in 1925, what would be your swindle?
Condoleezza
Is another one
Rice.
for you, Clarky?
Is it Condoleezza Rice, his most famous con? That was another Little Britain joke, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
I was going to say Little Britain or Catherine Tate's. one or the
Morning,
other.
Neville. Double cheese. Oh, it might have been Catherine
Tate, yeah.
Yeah. So good.
There you go. Good old Kathy Tate. We love her.
She is brilliant.
Does it have something to do with automobiles, Schmidty?
No, it doesn't. But
Damn it.
thank you for trying. Anyone else got any ideas?
Religion.
It's too obvious, but the Eiffel Tower, something to do with the
Oh,
Eiffel
you
Tower.
got it. You got it, Carla.
Oh, you're
No,
so
Carla's-
I'm only thinking-
smart.
Carla's got
The
it.
Eiffel Tower.
Swanee
No, but
is a
well,
genius.
there is that. There is
And a
that.
shifty,
Connection.
shifty bird.
She's not a truth
I was
stretcher.
making the London Bridge.
Ah,
I'm not
sold the
I'm not a truth
Eiffel Tower.
Or a
Really?
soothsayer.
a spoof stretcher.
It's the only thing that I could think of that was obviously Parisian.
No, you're absolutely
was
right.
actually
So
there.
setting up in the Hotel de Crillon,
Wow.
Lustig went to work creating brochures, setting up business meetings in Bordeaux, infiltrating a government department, and created a fake office in the basement of the hotel by bribing the staff. And it sort of reminds me of companies with fake websites, Facebook pages, and that who scam people now. So,
Yeah.
one would argue his legacy lives on. So he partnered with a colleague and conman known as Dapper Dan.
Oh,
Like
no.
Oh no, he's travelled forward in time.
Dapper Dan.
Dan
Who
Andrews.
he'd met in the US and also travelled. No, don't pick on Uncle Dan.
I wasn't.
like Uncle Dan.
Dapper's not a.
I think there's like a Gucci DJ called Dapper Dan.
Yeah, Dapper's not a offensive word.
No, but this Dapper Dan's a shifty con man, and
Well,
let's
you hadn't
not
said
align
that
him
bit. I was
with
just
our
saying
premier.
the Dapper bit.
He is right. Dapper Dan is like a Gucci like influencer. Or something. There's this black guy who
Influencer.
it's in hip hop and rap. I was like,
Well,
he's a designer, but I've heard of Dapper Dan. I wonder if that's where he got his name.
I hate
from.
to tell him he
Yeah.
ain't the first Dapper Dan.
No, well, I'm thinking maybe he's heard of
Anyway,
this guy.
be the
That's
last.
Maybe. So he met him in the USA, and he travelled with him again on a cruise line with his family. But the family were pretty much unaware, like the wife and kids,
Were unaware that he installed a false wall.
unaware that he was
Daddy
a
is a
complete
truth
con man.
stretcher.
Yeah. That he was a,
Daddy is a
that
truth
he was a
stretcher.
truth stretcher. They didn't know he was a truth stretcher. That's right.
It's a mystic art.
So he posed as. is.
Daddy is a truth stretcher.
So this guy was posing as a business associate. So after meticulously whittling down 11 targets to one mark, they executed the sting. I'm using all this language for you. It's very good.
So good. It's so good.
Posing as a put-upon and slightly corrupt government official, Lustig prepared a contract for sale for Andre Poisson, a.k.a. Andrew Fish.
I was going to say, Poisson
Yep.
Fish, yes.
Mr. Fish, a Parisian scrap dealer for the Tour Eiffel. Yep, as you said, Carla, he sold the guy the Eiffel Tower. As you no doubt know, the Tour Eiffel was erected as a temporary structure for the Exposition Universelle de 1889, because I don't know how to say that in French, or even with a fake French accent. And by 1925, it had fallen into a state of disrepair, and some of the populace wanted it removed. Others wanted it renovated, and Lustig saw this as a great opportunity to set up this whole false sale. And it seems odd, but actually, if you think about it, it was quite plausible at the time. Like it was like the what do we call it here? The wheel that they've just recently sold
Melbourne
in Melbourne.
Eye.
You know,
Melbourne Star.
Is it Melbourne Star? Yeah. So
I never even heard of that.
it was like the London Eye, but let's
Yeah.
argue it was placed in the wrong place and it had problems from the start. Anyway, you could imagine some people said that's shit, other people said that's amazing, and this person comes in and says, "Oh well, it's my job to sell it," and whatever. They set out the terms and conditions for sale, and on the 13th of May, 1925, in the fake conference room of the Hotel de Crillon, they sold the erection to Fish for a certified check for 1,200,000 francs, which was $8 million in today's money.
That's a lot for an erection.
Yeah,
It
it's
is.
the most expensive erection I've ever heard of. Yeah. To quote one of the people I spoke about earlier, and I can't remember which one wrote this. This was a Wednesday morning, and Poisson requested 48 hours in which to raise the cash. There was some question of him needing to put his family home on Avenue Montagnier up for collateral against a bank loan. So this guy's, hocking everything. And this was all perfectly acceptable, said Lustig. Poisson later remarked that the seller's utmost courtesy throughout the transaction served only to aggravate the final horror of the scene.
Oh my God.
What could it be?
Of course, the Parisian government were not selling the tower for scrap, and Mr. Fish, having realised he'd been swindled, returned to the hotel to discover the conference room was a closet in the basement. And no one knew anything about Lustig, who had run off to Vienna by that time, staying at the Hotel Imperial under one of his 47 aliases. Mr. Fish, embarrassed at the con, didn't report it to police. $8 million.
He didn't
Jeepers.
report
That's
it.
no.
Rich much?
Well, but he wasn't. He had to hock his family home. Anyway, the best bit about that,
Well, it sounds like he was rich, but
yeah,
you know,
rich,
he
but
was extended
asset
himself.
rich.
Yeah.
Asset rich, not cash rich, yeah.
Yeah.
The best bit about that particular swindle is that he had the enormous kahunas to return to Paris and do it again. He sold the
No.
Eiffel Tower twice.
No.
He's unbelievable. Girl crush, sorry. His second mark wasn't quite as embarrassed or silly and did dob him into the police, but he'd already got on the lam by then. Do you like I'm using on the lam now? I've got all these expressions.
That I don't know. What's that one?
On the
On
lam,
the
you know,
lam.
running away. On the run.
No, I don't
On
know
the
that
run.
one.
On
I've
the
never heard
lam
it.
is,
Never heard
you
that
know,
Yeah,
Never heard
it's
it.
an American
I
for
believe you.
being on the
No.
run.
I've heard it.
I've not heard it, no.
Well,
I believe you. Never
that's-
heard it. No.
That's 2 against 1, according to Schmidty's maths from earlier.
Pedagogy, on the lam, mark. So many learnings in today's episode.
Oh, it's incredibly
Very
informative. Don't buy landmarks that aren't for sale.
That's right. Whilst the money box and the tower sales are by far the most famous of his cons, my personal favourite is the one I'll finish on. This is a
You
cracker.
haven't got to your favourite yet. Woohoo!
Right, so in 1925, the man with steel balls, as I like to call him, Count Victor Lustig.
No nut punching for him.
No, you'll hurt your hands.
Ouch.
That will hurt you. That's right. Ran a con on none other than Al Capone.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
It was early in Capone's career. He was 26 at the time, and Lustig arranged to meet him at the Hawthorne Hotel in Cicero near Chicago. Pop, squish, 6. Uh-oh, Cicero. Lip
Is that
shots.
another famous quote that I
What?
should know?
What is that?
He had
Yeah.
it coming. He had it coming.
Oh.
He
Oh, is
had
this
it
from Chicago?
coming all along. Yes, it's
Oh.
from Chicago.
Oh, sorry.
Haven't
Sorry,
seen
I
that
got
either.
it
Jesus.
Took me a moment.
Oh my God, Paul. Oh my God.
Sheltered workshop over there.
Who, me or
100%.
Clarky?
Yeah.
Clarky.
It's-
It's everything. Everything's a revelation.
In terms of
What?
pop culture, I'm a desert.
I can't believe. Anyway, I can believe you don't know it, but I'm shocked at that one. He convinced Capone to invest in a get-rich-quick scheme, promising to double his $50,000, $50,000, and this is in like 19-something. I can't even do the math, but it's shit tons of money, right? In 60 days or less. Some weeks later, he returned, telling Capone it didn't work out, and he gave him the money back. Sorry about that. You know, I lost everything. And Capone said, "Are you broke?" And he goes, "Yeah." And so, feeling sorry for him, Capone gives him $5,000, which is still worth, you know, shit tons. Not as many
Yeah.
shit tons, but 10% of shit tons is still shit tons, right? Now, there's speculation that he had second thoughts about taking the whole amount and running away with it, but some think that it was a long con and it was intended to get $5,000 out of Capone in the first place. Either way, he got the money for nothing, and he didn't sleep with the fishes, and he doesn't have new concrete shoes. So it was all good for him. Did you at least get my gangster references there?
Yes,
Oh,
still
thank
am.
Did. Yes, yes,
Right.
yes.
I was thinking about the long con though, and I thought that was quite interesting. So he was setting himself up
Yeah.
to sort of get something bigger out
Yeah,
of
yeah,
it.
yeah.
He thought
So-
he had his trust.
Yeah. So Dirty Rotten Scoundrels is a perfect example of a long con.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So in 1930, Lustig goes into a partnership with 2 men from Nebraska, a pharmacist, William Watts, and chemist Tom Shaw, to conduct a large-scale
He gets around.
He does. To conduct a large-scale counterfeiting operation. This is the beginning of the end for him. Watts and Shaw engraved the plates that would be used to print the counterfeit dollar bills, while Lustig organised a ring of couriers to distribute the forgeries, ensuring that they were kept in the dark regarding the production of the counterfeits. The operation managed to inject thousands of dollars of counterfeit money, nicknamed Lustig money, to the US economy each month for the next 5 years, though the increasing amount entering circulation eventually drew the attention of federal agents as it was threatening to break the economy. And also, this was
God.
in the period of the Great Depression by now, so we've moved into the early 30s. So it was a massive deal, and they actually called him public enemy number one. Going back to a much earlier statement I made about him being a bit of a horn dog and cheating on his wife, because he was linked with a bunch of women. He was actually having a affair, or he had a mistress called Billy May. And now Billy May was a infamous woman of the time who was a madam running her own prostitution ring. And he then started to have an affair or shag his business partner, Tom Shaw's, his mistress. Sorry,
What?
it's complicated,
Can you
but basically
do that again.
he started
What?
to have it off, to put it in plain terms, he was having it off with Tom Shaw's girlfriend / mistress and his own mistress, who was actually a madam running a prostitution ring herself, got
Yep.
wind of it,
Billy May.
May,
Yep.
and she got very angry about this, and hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. So she rang the police in an anonymous call, although somehow we know it was her, and dobbed him into the authorities. And on the 10th of May in 1935, he was arrested in New York and charged with counterfeiting. Although
When you
he
say-
openly admitted... Yeah.
When you say it was an anonymous call, did she say like, "Hi, it's Millie Bay here. I just want to report a crime," or Billy may not? Billy might.
She might have said, "Hi, it's Mae West here."
Billy Mae West. How did they work out it was
Billy
me?
Mae West. I've always said an orgasm and what was the other thing? A cigar or something. I can't remember, but Mae West had this idea about longevity was driven by an orgasm a day and something else. Anyway, I digress. So he openly admitted to his partner's involvement in the operation, but he himself feigned ignorance and on the matter. "Oh, I don't know anything about it. I'm just a lovely aristocrat from Europe." However, his refusal to disclose information on key information found in his possession proved to be his undoing. And it was later found to open a locker in Times Square subway station containing $51,000 in counterfeit bills and the plates on which they'd been printed. 51,000 was, I can't even, again, shit tons of money at this point in time. The day before his trial, Lustig managed to escape from the federal house of detention. I love this.
God's sakes.
Yeah, because he escaped. I told you earlier, I didn't go into detail because we can't do this for 48 hours, but he escaped about 40 times. He was a classic, right? He escaped from the federal house of detention in New York City by faking illness and then used a rope he made of sheets, and he climbed out of the building. As he descended the walls, some passerbys noticed him. I love this. This is my favorite bit. So he pulls out a rag and starts cleaning the windows like he's a window cleaner. While he's hanging off a sheet rope
Genius.
in his prisoner outfit. "I'm just cleaning the windows, nothing to see here." And off he goes. And yes, it wasn't new. He'd escaped many, many a time. He was recaptured, sadly, in my opinion, 27 days later in Pittsburgh, and after pleading guilty at trial, he was sentenced to 15 years in prison on Alcatraz Island
Oh.
for his original charge, and then he got another 5 years for escaping prison.
Escape.
Yeah. By December the 7th, 1946, Lustig had made a staggering 1,192 medical requests and filed 507 prescriptions. The prison guards believed he was faking because he was, as we now know, a truth stretcher, and that his illness was part of an escape plan. They even found torn bed sheets in his cell, signs of his expert rope making. According to medical reports, Lustig was inclined to magnify physical complaints and constantly complaining of real and imaginary ills. Hypochondriac. He was transferred to a secure medical facility in Springfield, again, Missouri, and we returned to Springfield at the age of 57. where the doctors soon realised he wasn't faking. On March 11, 1947, at the age of 57, he died from complications arising from pneumonia. To quote Spike Milligan, "I told you I was ill."
The boy who cried wolf.
But you don't have pneumonia over a sustained period of time, do you? Wouldn't that be a fairly acute kind of scenario?
No, you're right. I think he probably was a bullshit artist for a long time, and it was the boy who cried wolf.
Well,
totally.
you say bullshit artist, I say
Truth
truth
stretcher.
stretcher, same.
Soothsayer.
Yeah, he stretched that truth one too many times.
I do like this. On his death certificate, a clerk wrote for his occupation that he was an apprentice salesman.
Oh.
At the age of 57 when he died.
Now, he did leave behind a bit of a legacy that's been attributed to him. It's known as the 10 Commandments for con men. And I think in this, there's a little bit of wisdom for all of us. So I'd like you to listen to this, both of you. All three of you.
Intrigued.
And Tony sitting next to me who's very quiet. Be a patient listener. It is this, not fast talking, that gets a con man his coup. Never look bored.
Right.
I'm out.
Wait for the other person to reveal. You're out on this one too, I can assure you. In fact, you're out on the next 6, I think. This one, wait for the other person to reveal any political opinions, then agree with them.
Yeah, I'm out.
Number 4, let the other person reveal religious views and then have the same ones. Yes, I know, you're out.
Out.
5, hint at sex talk, but don't follow it up unless the other person shows a strong interest. 6, never discuss illness unless some special concern is shown. 7, never pry into a person's personal circumstances. They'll tell you everything eventually. Never boast. Just let your importance be quietly obvious. That's you, Paul, isn't it?
Mm-mm. No, I think my importance is not obvious, nor quiet, nor even there.
What about never be untidy?
No, always.
And I think we could all say we're all out on the last one. Never be drunk.
What?
Well, because you're con man,
Oh,
you've
I
got to
know
be
that one.
focused on everything, right? You've got to be reading the room.
Yep.
Even if I wanted to be, I couldn't be a con man.
No.
That's quite a common thing, isn't it, when people do want something of somebody else to ensure that the other person is getting more to drink and pretending that they're drinking. A lot of them will pretend they're drinking.
Absolutely.
That's quite common.
Yeah, me too.
Did you learn that in con ladies school? When you
Cert 3.
Cert 3
Well,
truth stretcher?
I think it should be
I have
Cert
seen
3
it,
truth
so that's in real life,
stretchery.
to be honest.
You've seen it in real life.
Well, I don't want to go
No,
into
that's
any
okay, but I
detail,
think it's fair to say, never from me.
I have seen some.
Never from me.
No,
I
no,
have
no, no,
never
no, not at all.
held back and getting pissed in front of you. Don't you worry.
No, not at all. Not at all. I have seen in real life.
Yeah.
I've seen a particular person,
Like on Law and Order?
yes, like that, who would ensure that everybody was having a great time, everybody was more than had their glass full, but that person didn't. And then when it would come time to do certain things and pay bills and whatever else, nobody realised just who had been in control and how the situation had been manipulated. So I think that's quite a common thing about getting people drunk and sort of
Using them up.
having them loosened.
Yeah, wow.
That's a Law and Order moment that we had there.
Yes.
That is the story of Lord Mountjoy, Count Lustig Robert Miller the Fifth. Well, I don't know.
Wow.
I mean, he's got so many names, we don't know who he is.
Exactly.
So, what are your thoughts on his crimes? And were the crimes just
Well,
for him or for the other people?
Nice to see that nobody got killed.
No one got killed.
That's nice. What do we think motivated him? Do we know that? What's his sort of? Was it just that he was actually really quite clever and didn't really want to work too hard and just wanted a quick fix?
I wouldn't say he didn't work
Financially.
hard. I think he
That's
works
true.
quite hard at his craft.
Quick money.
I honestly think that there would have been something about, well, who knows, right? But at the end of the day, in prison records, he said himself that he came from a very poor background. But earlier,
But he didn't.
well, it's a bit confusing because when he goes to the Sorbonne in France, His father says you need to go to the Sorbonne. So there was no evidence that he was on a scholarship. I did try.
That's not Struggle Town exactly. Is it?
And I was trying to look up whether or not, well, I don't know. France, sorry, in 1908, would that have been free education? So was that, he might have had to be very bright, but it doesn't mean it was a paid education.
But I mean, I think it's one of those things where, you know, the families that did go to university versus those that didn't even entertain it. You know what I mean? That's true, truly, you know, when you are poor, when you know, you might be brilliant, but it's not even on your radar. Yeah, if it was on their radar, it suggested they were at least...
Yeah, every source I read said that the father pushed him to go to the university.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like his motivation... I mean, obviously he got money, but it almost sounds like he was addicted to conning people, and he got a real joy out of seeing what kind of stories he could come up with, and then whether he could actually get away with it.
I think there was a lot of thrill seeking with him, yeah.
But
you'd like to think
so.
So.
And maybe a little bit of Robin Hoodery as well with selling the Eiffel Tower to
Count Lustig.
Rich people. God, stop it, Schmidty. You sound like you're...
I know.
Yuck.
But the horn for
the
truth stretcher.
Show me your tutti frutti necklace.
Put it up my alley.
Oh,
you could get some serious voice work there.
Count Lustig, are you really selling that big French erection? To Eiffel, of course.
Goodness.
So obviously he was a con man and a criminal. But what are your thoughts about the people around him?
Oh, so there's a couple of things. I mean, I think let's call out he's obviously a genius in the way that he plans and executes his cons, I think.
Me too.
Selling landmarks, I think, is not an easy thing to do. Not that I've ever tried, but I'm happy to just assume that it's not easy to do.
I reckon you could probably have a crack at selling the giant koala or the big pineapple or, you know, one of those classic Australian landmarks. Not quite the Tour Eiffel, but, you know.
It would be remarkable, though, if you found a buyer for it. A mark, sorry, I think is the correct term.
It would. Find a mark. Yeah, I would be impressed if you found a mark. Yeah.
I don't know. There's obviously some things some skills that maybe are the ones, hopefully they're the ones that you're attracted to, not the fact that he actually committed all those crimes.
So when I was doing this research for this case, I went and I had a chat with my mum about it because my grandfather was 10 years younger than Count von Baron Lustig Mountjoy Miller, whatever his name was. And my grandfather, when he came to Australia after the Hungarian Revolution, was this incredibly sophisticated, you know, real European gentleman type. And not like my dad. My dad was much more rough. But my grandfather was old world type European. And that's what I see. When I say I've got a crush, and that's why I say it sounds weird, but that's what I see in this guy. I see this incredibly suave, good influencer, like not in a bullshit Instagram fashion, in a real, every interaction that he has is really influencing people, getting what he wants for sure. But anyway, when my pa died, my mother and father received calls from various women who had lent my grandfather money.
Oh no!
Oh, whoops!
And when I said to Mum, I said, I'm doing this case about this con man who, you know, took money, and she goes, no, they wanted to give him the money. And I'm like, well, yeah, so did the people that Baron von Lustig, blah blah blah. They thought they wanted to give him the money too. And Mum was like, no, it's not quite the same. I'm like, I don't know that it's not the same. Anyway, we paid it back. But maybe there's a part of me that says it was a thing at the time and fair play. Don't know. I'm not saying he wasn't a criminal.
Yes, but it's like hustling.
But I would say the people who he conned, not all of them, not the community bank, I agree with that. And maybe not the church. But the people he conned wanted to be conned in some ways, or they would never have parted with that money.
Often the case is that where Schmidty's saying people want to be conned, it's not so much that they want to be conned, but they so desperately want more. It's just their greed that's what sets them apart. It's like they will allow themselves to be led to you know, when things feel too good to be true or whatever else. It's like, well, you know, but I really want the money. I really, you know, so they'll go with it. They'll take risks and they'll put themselves in situations where they're not, able to check things out or whatever else, because they think that the gain is worth the risk, I guess, and that's greedy.
You and I know individuals who have put themselves into situations where they have literally been conned in the modern world because they want to get rich quick. They'll go for any pyramid scheme. They'll go into anything that sounds good.
And it's not that I don't.
It doesn't mean I don't sympathise, but I don't sympathise, actually.
Yeah,
but that
I think you've got to have some kind of self-awareness when it comes to that stuff.
I agree with that in the context of, paying $800,000 for a box with a few wheels and knobs and stuff on it to make money. I mean, there's a fair bit of, I'm not overly sympathetic about that. It's things like, I'll go and get your jewelry cleaned and then I nick off with it, or installing a false wall, and that's just plain theft. It's not a gambling thing where someone comes in and makes a bet. And although even that I have a bit of a problem with, because you're telling someone that you reasonably walk into that room and go, I'm going to place a bet on the horses, and
there are no fair odds.
The odds are completely stacked against you. Yeah. So I don't know. I think
just like going to a casino now.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, correct, but probably worse, because you go and play the pokers. The chances of you winning are incredibly low, but there is a chance that you'll win. Or you go to the horses and you bet on a horse, and generally speaking, there's a chance and there's odds and all that sort of stuff.
It's an odd of one out of however many horses.
Yeah.
One of them's going to come first, right?
Correct. But if you're betting off track and there's actually no race going on, or whatever the con is in that regard, whilst we say there's no one was hurt or murdered necessarily.
I didn't say there was no crime. I didn't say
but what I'm saying is that potentially the impact to somebody who maybe in really tough circumstances, going, maybe if I can win this, it'll change my circumstances, who then loses it and potentially goes and offs themselves or goes back and, beats their family or whatever that might be. There's a big, to me, I have a big problem with what he's done, and I get that there's some amazing cons, and I really like, so I wanted to point out his genius to start with. But the reality is he's a shit bloke, and I'm not okay with him. He's not a truth stretcher. He's a shit bloke.
You don't have to be.
Taking advantage of people.
He is a truth stretcher and a shit bloke. He's both.
And the bloke
he's a truth stretcher who's got a penchant for marks.
A truth stretcher is just a liar, isn't it, really?
Yes.
The bloke who paid $800,000 for a moneymaker is a gullible shit bloke, not a truth stretcher. And clearly, come on, mate. Because that's a crime in itself, going to want to produce the money. So, he's paying money to commit a crime. Well, if you get duped in that process, good.
All right. Swanee, what are your thoughts?
Sentencing?
Yeah, sorry, Clarky. Give him a sentence. Go on, smash him.
Yes. Throwing cans at him.
Yeah, that's Stu kicking the can.
Take that cruiser.
Maybe that's going to be my sentence. That how you have kids kicking cans down the street. I'm going to sentence him to Peasant World as the can that the kids are going to kick up and down the street, and he can just continually get kicked over and over and over again. His pneumonia, I think, was also a good sentence, and I'm comfortable that he got that. I'm happy with his years on Alcatraz, but karma got him in the end. But I wouldn't mind a bit of can kicking action for him. Certainly no nut punching, because that's only going to hurt everyone's hands.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because he's got balls of steel.
Exactly, and they're probably spiky as well.
Who knows? We'd have to ask his wife.
Or Billy May. Or the other one.
And a bunch of Hollywood starlets,
people.
but I can't remember who they were.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Well, that's good, because what I'm thinking of doing with him is I'm going to take him back to his carpentry roots and I'm going to give him a job in Bunnings where he just has to do standard retail. He's not allowed to take advantage of anybody. He can't do any of these cons. He just has to work hard for $1, and he has to have an honest day's work, but the honest day work is for, for until he dies.
And can he doesn't touch money in that process, does he?
No, nothing. He's just working hard. He's customer service. He's got those skills, but
Stacking
he can't
shelves.
influence anybody. He can't manipulate. He's just got to be an honest, hard worker.
So he can stand at the saw in Bunnings and
Correct.
tell Tony and I that he
Had
can't
to faux
cut
walls.
more than 3 cuts because the saw will get too hot. Yeah.
I
Anyway.
take it that's
Are you
something that's
serious?
actually really happened to you guys.
Yeah,
I think that's
saw.
obviously something that's obviously happened to you.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think that
That sounds like a little bit of truth stretching right there.
Bunnings Foots
Yes.
Grey.
Oh no, I just think he needs to
Bunnings Foot's grey.
tone it down and stop trying to pretend that he's somebody he's not, and just an honest day's work, but many
And have
days.
some respect for other people,
Yeah.
dirty man.
Well, I'm sure you'll get that with dealing with the general public at Bunnings. Yes.
That's true.
All right.
Cool.
So
Excellent.
all right. Well, thank you very much for your input, both of you. I will tell you what my
Merci.
sentence is.
Yes.
So I
Ooh.
think that Victor should put his incredible brain to a positive use. And so I'm going to sentence him to a career working with the police to prevent crime, as with his understanding of people and their psychology and how easy it is to con them, and his incredible work ethic, let's face it, put in the right direction, could be very, very valuable. I'm sure he'd have an excellent clearance rate, Clarky. And as we learned from the last
Our
episode,
dear friend Reggie would absolutely suggest that working with the police is a punishment, I think. Other people may not see it that way, but yes.
she might. But more importantly, we all know now from last week's episode that a clearance rate is very important. And I think that he could get his little points, his little personal points from a very good clearance rate. All right. So,
Well done,
I thought
Schmidty.
it was kind of fun
That was interesting. I enjoyed it.
and different for us.
Some corn capers.
I know.
A catalogue of corn capers.
Thank you. Catalogue of,
Yeah, we started with BBC and we ended with CCC. Isn't that amazing?
Yes, absolutely.
I love a good alliteration and an acronym.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, well, on that note, thank you very much, guys, and I miss you already.
Miss you. Arrivederci.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye, everyone. See ya. Bye.
Buonanotte.
Ciao, bello.
Oh, why did we get all continental? It must have been the whole aristocratic bloke. Thanks for listening to Trial by Wine. You can contact us at trialbywine@gmail.com. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Trial by Wine on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to support us, you can become a patron at www.patreon.com, Trial by Wine, or visit our website www.trialbywine.com to donate to us. Your support will help us cover many more cases and apply wacky sentences. We really appreciate you listening and hope you tell everyone about us. Our cover art is by John Christo and music is by Beauchamp from pixabay.com.